Does your inner voice bully you like a critical parent or asshole? If so, it's time to tell it to shut the F up, which is probably what you want to say to a critical parent or asshole. And by the end of this playlist, you're going to learn how to flip that voice into your biggest hype woman. Because that critical inner voice is not you being honest with yourself. It's you being loyal to the voice of people who made you feel like you could never do anything right. And if you're calling self-criticism high standards, you're lying to yourself, because having impossible standards and beating yourself up for not being perfect or meeting them is not high standards. That's called perfectionism. This playlist is critical self-talk from inner bully to your loudest hype woman, and it's a 3-day challenge about transforming that critical inner voice, the one that bullies you, the one that berates you, and tells you that you're never good enough. And I want to be very clear from the start. That voice is not your voice. It sounds like you, and it's definitely living in your head, but it did not originate as from who you are as a person. Because we're all born with this light inside of us. I mean, you see kids, they're running around, they're screaming, they do not care. But as we go along life, society systems and family systems, or even school systems, there's some of these micro systems within the systems, they all tell us who we should or should not be. So we start conforming to things outside of ourselves to fit in. And it's actually a very smart survival strategy as children and teenagers when we have no other choice. But as fully autonomous adults, it's finally time for us to start choosing to live like functional adults and not live from these survival patterns anymore, because we're built to thrive and not just survive. So this playlist is for the woman who has high standards, yet zero compassion for herself. So you may look capable on the outside and check all the boxes, but inside you're silently hating yourself and you're chasing perfection, and it's exhausting. And maybe you've been calling that self-hate motivation or self-discipline or having high standards. Listen to me, we're not doing that anymore. Not in my house, not in my YouTube channel. This is a safe space to shine our light. So if you're tired of feeling that way about yourself and tired of punishing yourself, this is for you. And I didn't come to this work because I was naturally compassionate with myself. I came to it because my self-talk used to be extremely bitchy and critical. When I was a little girl, I loved to sing, I loved to dance, I dreamed of living in Hawaii and driving a red convertible. And yet my parents were both extremely emotionally unavailable. So as an adult, I understand what that means, but as a child, you just don't have the knowledge to be able to interpret the situation. So I always thought that I didn't deserve to be loved. And then added to that, I had a very critical mother. She was extremely critical about my face, what I wore, how I expressed myself, my feelings. And as I got older, I was too fat, I was too skinny, she didn't like my hair. I felt like I could never do anything right. There was always something to fix, improve, or correct. And what happens when you grow up around someone you can never quite please is this. You stop exploring who you are and you start obsessing over who you should be. So my point is, I wasn't naturally self-critical. I actually loved who I was as a little girl, but I learned this behavior from my environment. And that voice in my head, it wasn't intuition, it wasn't truth, it was the voice of my mom, who was miserable in her own life and honestly, probably internally, equally as critical of her own life. And none of that had anything to do with who I was as a person. And this is so important to me because it took me so long in my life to figure this out. And until I had it figured out, it was a very unhappy and unfulfilling existence. So I don't care who criticized you or put that voice in your head. You didn't deserve it because it had nothing to do with who you are and that beautiful light inside of you. Only people who hate themselves and their own lives talk to other people this way. It's called bullying, and it's not okay. Because think about it. Would you ever talk to a friend or someone that you love and respect the way you talk to yourself sometimes? No. With your friends, you're probably hyping them up, which is what you're going to start doing to yourself by the end of this video series. And the reason it's important that you understand this, I mean, there's many reasons, but like for me, my mom criticized me, so I thought it was totally normal and I thought I deserved it. So I unintentionally surrounded myself as I went along life with more critical people who were just like her, who projected their self-hate onto me. And as a result, I started to hate myself, and that almost cost me my own life. And by surviving, I realized that I have a purpose, and I'm still not totally sure what that is, but I am on a mission for anyone who hates themselves or lives an unhappy, unfulfilling, or maybe even a hopeless life to know that it's not you. That has nothing to do with you at all. You are a ball of beautiful light. You've just been surrounded by people who hate themselves and have projected that onto you. It is so important that you understand this. And for many of you, that critical inner voice, it's embedded in your nervous system because it's the voice of narcissistic parents, emotionally immature caregivers, chronically critical authority figures, which may be from school or sports teams or whatever, or any environment where nothing you did was ever enough. And when you grow up feeling like you can't do anything right, your nervous system adapts by being hypervigilant. And that vigilance turns into constant self-awareness. And while self-awareness inherently is good, and some self-awareness is good, anything gone to extremes can be destructive, especially if you are replaying conversations, overthinking mistakes, preemptively criticizing yourself, or somehow feel like you're always behind, or you should be this or should be that. And if you do have these thoughts, it does not mean that you're flawed in any way, because you're not broken, nothing is wrong with you. It just means, again, like we're very smart and adaptive. So when you were young, your body learned that criticism was the cost of connection. So you developed these behavior strategies to keep that connection. But the problem is you're now a fully functional adult and you're still behaving the same way little you did to survive a critical environment. And this playlist is about taking that critical inner voice and making her your hype woman, because you deserve that. We are collapsing the beliefs of our hypervigilant identity that feed the voice and learn to listen to our self-compassionate voice, which is the voice of who we really are as a person. Over the next 3 videos, we're going to dismantle and debunk the 3 primary beliefs of critical self-talk, which are: if I am perfect, I'll be loved; high standards mean being tough on myself; my inner critic is my intuition. Because that inner bully voice is not helping you evolve and up-level. It's keeping you in survival mode. And again, it's just such an exhausting and unfulfilling way to live. And each video has an action item that you can start implementing right away in your everyday life to start changing your behaviors and beliefs. Because again, if you have a belief that you need to be perfect to be loved, you can't always just reprogram that belief through force. So when you start to change your behaviors to act on, like, it's okay if I'm imperfect because I'm learning and growing, and we'll get to all the specifics in the later videos, but by changing your behaviors over time, that naturally reprograms your beliefs. So then once your new belief is formed, then your unconscious behaviors are running off of that new belief. So it does take some work up front to actually implement these new behaviors and habits, but it is so worth it because eventually you're just going to be running on a new program that makes life, trust me, so much easier. And it feels way effortless. And I'm not saying life will be easy, but it just feels a lot easier than how you were living before. And ideally, you would do, because this is the introduction video, there's going to be 3 more videos. Ideally, you would do all 3 days in a row. But if you need to rewatch a video for the lesson to sink in, that's okay. There are no rules. All I'm asking is that if you're serious about not being mean to yourself anymore, that you take intentional action to make a change and practice the action items until they become unconscious habits. So I'm actually going to give you an action item for today, even though this is the introduction video. But for today, your action item is be aware when the critical inner voice speaks to you. And that's it. Just observe. Don't argue, don't shame, just acknowledge and accept that it's there. Because awareness is the first step to change. So this is huge. You can already start hyping yourself up for celebrating that you have awareness. Because again, this was like my unconscious program for so long because I thought it was normal for me to be talking to myself like that. So just breaking out of that unconscious pattern was a huge first step. So if you have the awareness that it's happening, that is huge. So your only action item is to be aware and observe. And if you want extra credit, start celebrating yourself because that is going to come into place in the later videos. So if you're already resonating with this, I want you to know that it builds on my self-criticism to self-connection playlist. And that series goes deeper into perfectionism, specifically the transformation from self-criticism into self-compassion. So if this hits, you'll want to check out that as well because it's, as everyone is saying now, adjunct. And in the next video, we're gonna go straight for the foundation, the belief that says, if I'm perfect, I'll finally be loved. So get ready to flip that story for good.